Go live.
I'm not sure if we're live. I'm going to see. We're in 12 seconds. Let's see if it's live. Having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Okay, I got the notification. We are live. Good evening, YouTube. DutyRon checking back in with another video. And tonight we're going to talk about the arrest of the ex-police officer in Minnesota in the George Floyd death scene, crime scene, whatever you want to call it, over out of Minnesota in Minneapolis. Derek Chauvin, a 19-year veteran, arrested today by the prosecutor's office. Welcome in, everybody. My name is DutyRon, retired New York City police detective. I served 20 plus years in the New York City Police Department, and I am joined tonight by a special guest, my good friend and colleague. I'm honored to have him here tonight, Dr. Darrin Porcher. We are going to play a quick video tonight before I bring on Darrin. It's just a little bit of his work. He is a Fox News correspondent with the law enforcement side. He brings his expertise as a ex-NYPD lieutenant. He retired with me. We went through the academy together. He also has served in our United States Army and is a well-decorated police officer, supervisor, and has a lot of knowledge in the criminal justice area. So I'm happy to have him. Welcome in, Cruz Boston, boxing MMA 365, all the way coming in from Ireland. Hello, Fireberry Farm, Tracy Harvey. Hello, Tracy. Great to see you from Illinois. Beth is in the building. Sophia Howard is here. Hello, oh my, Meg Lowe is in the building. Good to see you, Meg. Retired Irish detective, my good friend from PSA 2. He's down in Florida, a New York transplant. Thank you. Angel, thank you for coming. Armed American Patriot is in the building. And if Black Rose shows up, love and respect. Sandra Beatty, thank you for joining. All right, quickly, we're going to segue on to a little bit of Darrin's work here. This was an interview he did this morning with Fox and Friends. This is Darrin Porcher, doctor.
This is a Fox News alert. Minneapolis in flames. Rioters seizing the city's 3rd Precinct headquarters, setting the headquarters on fire as calls ramp up for charges against officers in the wake of George Floyd's death. Here to discuss, former New York City Police Department Lieutenant Dr. Darrin Porcher. Darrin, good morning to you. As you look at what is happening there, you know, a tragic death, and they are investigating. But at the same time, in the 3 nights since then, there have been, starting with protests, then there was rioting, then there were looting, and people are burning down stores and homes and things like that. It seems like some bad actors are using this as a time to burn down their own community.
Absolutely. We're biting our nose to spite our face. And the truth of the matter is you are destroying your own communities that you live in. And ultimately, you're impacting negatively upon yourselves. We need to come together in a peaceful accord and protest accordingly. And in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's really setting us back because we drastically need these funds to bring these communities together as opposed to going backwards as a result.
Of course, you know, there are a lot of people in Minneapolis who feel that George's death is the result of, and it represents the systemic racism, they call it, that is exhibited by parts of that community, and in particular the police. They say, you say that while there should be a call for calm, ultimately, as the investigators and the prosecutors say, okay, we're going to have a thorough investigation, at the same time, the district attorney's made it pretty clear he's going to take his time. Why is that?
Well, I believe the prosecutors are referring to the teachable moments and what happened in the Freddie case in Baltimore. They rushed into it too quickly, and as a result, the officers weren't prosecuted accordingly. So they want to go into this smartly. Therefore, they're taking their time. They're making the proper assessment. Therefore, they can introduce the appropriate charges so justice can be administered as a result.
Okay, folks. So that's a great piece by Dr. Porcher. Guys, again, I'm happy to have him here aboard with us. Again, he is very busy. He has an interview with another outlet, a news outlet tonight. I am really, really happy to have him here. Also, I'm happy to report that the former police officer, Derek Chauvin, is in custody and charged with murder, 3rd degree. Now, we all have questions about this. I'm going to segue over into my Zoom meeting with Darrin. Again, get this and minimize it. Bye. What we got going on here? Okay, I got you.
Make sure that we got this
right. Yeah, I don't have it right now.
I wasn't talking to you, sorry.
Okay, all right, no problem, Darrin. Thank you for standing by for a moment while I make this quick adjustment. Gosh, I'm trying to, oh, here we go, I got it. Never fear, DutyRon to the rescue. All right, guys. Welcome in, Darrin. Thank you so much for joining the live stream tonight. I know you're a busy man. There's a lot of the news outlets that you work with as a correspondent in the law enforcement area. Thank you so much for coming on here tonight. Guys, I'll give you Dr. Darrin Porcher. Now, Darrin, we have this arrest of the one of the 4 officers over in Minneapolis. Now, I'm getting a lot of emails. I'm getting a lot of questions about why it was 3rd degree murder. Why weren't the other officers arrested? You and I both know there's more video that came out showing the 2 more officers with the knees on. We discussed this beforehand that, you know, arrests are forthcoming perhaps in the future with these other 2 officers. But right now, the prosecutor took his time in making this arrest, 4 days. But everybody is up in arms still over the 3rd degree murder charges. What's your take on that, Darrin?
Well, you know, it's somewhat multifaceted. One of the first things that the public wants introduced is they want quick and swift justice as it relates to a police officer that's involved in any means of misconduct. But the truth of the matter is there is a process that's afforded to police officers, and that is what we refer to as due process. You have to take in consideration the occupation of a police officer. This is someone that's sworn to protect us, the citizens, and also has a right to use deadly physical force as deemed necessary. Of course, this is a case where deadly physical force wasn't deemed necessary, nor did the officer use the minimum amount of force necessary to take Mr. Floyd into custody. But it goes back to, why did we have the charges that came about in this particular case? Now, I take you to a state like New York. In New York State, we have murder 1st degree and we have murder 2nd degree. We do not have a 3rd degree murder classification in New York State. However, in the state of Minnesota, they do have 3rd degree murder. 3rd degree murder, in essence, would replicate what we have as a manslaughter charge here in New York State. And this is a case of a person intending a physical injury to another person, and they subsequently cause their death. That's what appears to be, that appears to be what has been introduced into this particular situation. We had an individual, being Mr. Floyd, that was on the ground with the officer's knee to his neck for approximately 8 minutes and 53 seconds. Now, when we coming to the 7-minute point, that's when it was clear that Mr. Floyd had no vital signs. In addition to that, one of the other 2 officers that was standing aside the officer with his knee to Mr. Floyd's neck stated, "Why don't you let up? We don't have any vital signs." The officer refused. So 2 minutes and 53 seconds surpassed, and the officer never removed his knee from Mr. Floyd's neck. That's where we were able to introduce the charge of the manslaughter. Now, excuse me, murder third degree, which
Right.
would be equivalent to manslaughter in New York State.
Right. Now, you know, when people look at this video, and you and I both agreed that this was shocking as professional 20-year veterans. We're in law enforcement now going on 29 years in our retirement. We're still in law enforcement. You're speaking about it. You teach, these are things that nobody is comfortable with. Everybody just wants to get a first-degree murder charge. And we both know, you and I both know, and most people who study law who are in that profession, we know that you need to have certain things in place in order to get a successful arrest, summary arrest, and then the prosecution. We just don't want an arrest made and an indictment to come down. We want a conviction. I try to hammer that home to the general public, to people who don't have an understanding of what is, why prosecutors don't charge the highest charge. Because if you charge the highest charge, the proof of the burden of the proof is on the prosecution. And if they can't get a conviction on that, now you have somebody that is let go. And you brought up a very good point with the Baltimore case. I know you spoke about that on Fox this morning. They rushed quickly to get a higher charge, and they took it in, and the charges were dismissed. And now you're creating more public unrest after that. I mean, am I on the right base with that, Darrin?
You're absolutely right. I can revert back to, there was a period of time when I worked in the NYPD. I was a lieutenant for a point assigned to the Internal Affairs Bureau. So in many instances, I've investigated aspects of police corruption or police misconduct, so to speak.
Yes.
And so when we look at a situation like this, which would reveal an excessive level of force, you're going to look at it from a multitude of different angles. You want to take in consideration, what was the mindset of this officer? What was the officer's intent? And how gross was the misconduct in connection with what happened? There are two lanes that come into play with the discipline attached to an officer. The first lane is an administrative lane, which we clearly saw was exhausted as a result of the officer being terminated immediately. Under normal circumstances, there's a due process that plays its course. There's a hearing involved, and the officer's
They're afforded that 30-day period.
Right. Well, that's with the NYPD,
Yes.
but different departments throughout the country, they have different provisions.
Right.
But it's clear that the administrative path was a termination, and that's what we saw. I don't believe a hearing was introduced as a result.
Yeah.
The second component would be the criminal justice arena, and that's what we see this unwinding now when we see the officer that was taken into custody. The criminal justice component has a multitude of different provisions. We have a district attorney that's involved, and the district attorney is primarily focused on establishing probable cause to present this case to a grand jury. And I believe that they will have that information, or to break this case to a grand jury for a true bill. That's what we refer to as an indictment.
Yep.
I don't think that right now, I don't think that they're going to have a problem gaining an indictment, but at the same token, it does take a while to assemble a fact pattern in connection with establishing probable cause for this arrest in order to gain the true bill in the grand jury. And that's why it took so long. Many people say, hey, look, it took 4 days. If the common citizen committed a crime in the street, they would have been arrested immediately. You have to take in consideration the job description attached to a police officer. This is an individual that has the ability to take people into custody by the use of force or deadly physical force if the situation requires that. So when we have an instance where an officer uses deadly physical force, that's when an assessment phase comes into play to determine if the force was in fact justified to either take this person's life
Correct.
or take them into custody as a result.
Yeah, these are very great points that you bring up. I've touched on these on prior cases where we have a police officer that causes someone's death and then is subsequently charged. So Darrin, you bring up some great points. But, again, we look at all aspects of this. We have 3 going on 4 nights of rioting. Of course, tonight will not be any rest, although the National Guard was brought in by the federal government. So we have National Guard troops in. I've seen them in there with their with all their gear. The Humvees are in town. So that will maybe quell some of the burning of the buildings. But There's people that talk about they only came out now Friday night because the police precinct was burnt down and they didn't want to have any more violence or rioting going on, and they brought him in and charged him today. I disagree with that. Like you and I know that this is a professional operation. You need to have all the components in place. In other words, in layman's terms, without using big words, they have to have their ducks in order. Am I correct on that, Darrin?
Yeah, absolutely correct. And when we, just to piggyback on what you mentioned, the triangulation of localized law enforcement, the state police, and the federal government, as we see in this particular case, the National Guard, is a very coordinated approach. The three different entities have very specific duties as it relates to a disaster or a riot, so to speak, when we look at this particular case. The localized police are going to primarily be assigned with the enforcement within that quadrant, so to speak, where the incident happened. The National Guard is going to primarily post up from a position of omnipresence. You're going to see them in front of banks. You're going to see them in front of major commercial
Drug
stores, things to that effect.
Stores where there's
Right.
drugs and medication
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right.
Hospitals.
Right. Right. The when we look at the commercial properties, that's where their security is going to be established. Because you have to understand, the localized police department is going to be primarily responsible for apprehending bad actors, because they know more than anyone else what the landscape consists of in that city of Minneapolis. Although you have state police that are on the scene, their primary focus is the roadways and things to that effect.
Right.
But the localized police department knows how to get into these buildings. They know where addresses are located, and they know how to navigate through the congestion. So the triangulation of the three different entities is going to bring a level of fortification to that city of Minneapolis. It's just going to be a couple of days. However, things will revert back to normal. But
Right.
you also have to take in consideration the COVID-19 pandemic has extremely depleted resources. So we're functioning on fumes, so to speak. So that police department is doing the best that they can with the limited resources, and it's gonna be an arduous task, and
Right.
eventually they'll get it right.
Yes, and a great point that you bring up. I also say that the feds and the state police, they operate under different guise. They have different rules and regulations that they have to follow. Just as in New York City, when you and I were police officers and detectives, and you became a supervisor, we have our own department guidelines that necessarily didn't apply to state police officers, didn't apply to county officers. So different jurisdictions and different levels of law enforcement, when you talk about the federal, the state, and local, they operate on different guidelines. So their uses of force, their tactics that they use will be different. Now, I wanted to ask you really quick, because a lot of people have these questions, and I know you got to go. You're squeezed for time because you do have an interview after this. There was people that spoke about, these actors that are going around. We're all upset. We want the attention brought on to justice for, George Floyd, not talk about looting and rioting and clashes with the police. Now, there's a lot of people that speak about, because of these actions, we're not focused on the issue. We're not looking now at this man was murdered. We're looking at the nightly news, as I saw before you and I got together, is they're showing people burning buildings down and looting Walmarts and Targets. They're not talking about George Floyd. They're talking about what's going on right now. So this, in my eyes, and a lot of people have mentioned this to me, and I want to get your feel on this, is taken away from what's most important right now.
You're absolutely right. We have somewhat of a bifurcation here. When I say a bifurcation, meaning we're going in two different directions. You have an semblance of people that are genuinely angry and upset based on what they believe was the officer created an act of misconduct. So they believe that there was a miscarriage of justice. So there's a level of outrage. But then on the other side of the bifurcation, you have people that are opportunists. Those are the people that are going in and burglarizing businesses, creating complete anarchy, burning down a police precinct, etc. These opportunists these opportunists have now merged in with the angry population. And so it's somewhat difficult for you to triage and assess who's who, and it makes a challenging decision for law enforcement. But one thing that I will say, which is so unfortunate about a place like Minneapolis, it's not like New York City, Los Angeles, or Chicago, whereas we're quite used to dealing with these mass disturbances.
Right.
They're doing the best that they can with what they have, and it's going to take them some time. That's why it's gone as long as it's gone as a result. But
Right.
the bad actors are oftentimes, I want to say, in this particular situation, selfish individuals that only think for themselves. Who would burglarize a business in the wake of a COVID-19 pandemic? It would clearly be a selfish person, and that's what we see.
Right. There you go. Thank you so much for that, Darrin. Hey, I'm going to take just 5 minutes of some questions, and I'll just pick some of the questions that I think are important, and I'll throw them out to you. I don't know if you could see the chat on your end. Thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the stream. Booze Love, thank you so much. Will this business be able to rebuild? Will the businesses be able to rebuild their community? Will insurance companies prevent them from building there again? That's a question that us law enforcement professionals probably don't have the answer to. I would imagine that they would be able to use their insurance to help build them back up, and possibly city and state grants. But that's in the future at this time. So if anybody wants to send some questions or comments in the chat, I'll read them off to Darrin. I think he could see them himself.
Will the business be able to rebuild in the community, or will insurance companies prevent them from building there again?
That was what I just read off. Okay, I answered that question. They just want justice for one individual, but how many others will no longer have a chance with the loss of the PD? Listen, I feel that police department right now, their hands are tied. They really can't do much, but they do have the backing of the National Guard, the state police, and there is also mutual aid that was put out. I heard the governor put out the mutual aid. So they're getting fortification and backup from surrounding neighboring police departments as well, local, state, and the feds are there as well. Anybody else have any questions for Darrin? I got another few minutes with him. I know that everybody has a lot of questions, and I slowed the chat down. Yes, he is an incredible guest. There's just complimentary stuff in the chat there, Darrin. Everyone's saying thank you to you for being in here. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Lamar Walkins, good to see you. Thank you to my channel members, all of my Patreon supporters, and those of you who support this stream. If you're not subscribed to my channel, it's DutyRon, all one word. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and also Dr. Porcher, his Instagram and Facebook. I will link here below in the chat. Everybody go subscribe to his channel. His Twitter feed is chock full of his interviews and all the things that he does. Thank you, Duty Blue. Thank you, Dylan, from the great state of Texas, coming in and supporting our law enforcement community. Guys, let me just remind you, we really need the community support now more than ever, because I overemphasize this all the time, but I'm going to take this opportunity to do it with Darrin here. We have an overwhelming amount of good men and women who are out there every day and risk their lives for our safety, our freedom. The overwhelming majority of police officers who go out there do not suit up in the locker room and say, who am I going to kill today? It's quite to the contrary. It's quite opposite. I know for myself, I always thought and prayed silently to myself that it wouldn't be me having to go out there and take somebody else's life. So we were protected and serving, and we certainly didn't take the job as a police officer to become rich. And Darrin can tell you that as well. That's why him and I are still working. And we continue to do good work and spread the message of what police do on a good side. And we also are there. Darrin, I got to tip my cap to you, because you're there to say it as it is, talk, your real straight talk that you put out there when it comes to calling out someone that, a police officer that has done wrong. Darrin's the first to point it out in a professional and concise manner. So that's an awesome thing that you're doing, because it's not only, you're not only doing your job, but you're also getting out the word of what police are really all about. And you're giving your side of, your professional side of what you did personally yourself. And I do that myself here through my YouTube channel. Let me just look back as I see. You're welcome, Darrin. And like I said, it's an honor. So let's see. I understand you. I'm trying to pick out some good questions. Will the police officer who is looking at going to prison, will he be in general population? I would have to say no to that, right, Darrin? He's going to be in protective custody.
Yeah, officers are not going to be in general population, always protective custody.
Another thing too is, you know, a lot of people think that, oh, well, since he's a police officer or an ex-police officer, he's going to be afforded bail. I think in this case, because of the high publicity of it, he will not get any bail. That was another question that was in there. Do you agree with me on that one, Darrin?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly isn't a flight risk under normal terms, but right now I would say that he is a high flight risk. So because he knows what he is facing. The other two officers that we saw the new video of with them having their knee in Mr. Floyd's back, I think their arrests are forthcoming. They will also happen sometime maybe over this weekend or by Monday. I think that they'll have enough to bring charges. The Glera says we need to step up methods that prevent men like this officer Chauvin. I'm mauling his name. We need to take methods that will prevent men like this police officer who was arrested to wear the badge, so that we can reestablish trust with our local and federal law enforcement. I agree. I mean, I don't know that there's one certain solution to that, but in-service training, Darrin, I know you could talk about this better than I can. What is your thoughts on future law enforcement putting plans in to try to deter? You can never prevent, but we need to deter this.
Okay, well, this is going to be my last quote before I segue off. I think that this is an ever so evolving process in terms of grounding newly minted officers into police departments on a national level, understanding the dynamic of policing in America, which is something that's ever so evolving. What was okay 20 years ago is not okay today. And so mending within that culture is everything. Understanding what the cultural norms are. Everything is on video. We're held to a higher standard now than ever so before. Therefore, we need to keep our eye on a prize and do what's right, and ultimately serve the public in a way that keeps the public safe, and at the same token keeps the public happy. It's an arduous task, but we're fit for the challenge. On that note, Ron, I gotta go, and I just can't tell you enough how much I appreciate being on the platform, and I look forward to coming more often. I know that you have other things in the oven, but hopefully you can bring me back and we can discuss things far more in depth.
Darrin, I'd love to have you back. You're a brother, you're a friend, you're former police officers together. We trained together. I would do anything for you, and I know the same goes for you with me. So thank you so much for coming on in. We will always go and check out Dr. Darrin Porcher's social media and all of him. You can find him on Fox and Friends. You can find him on CNN. What else? You're doing Daily Mail and HLN. Are you doing a lot?
Yeah,
he's doing a lot of stuff.
I'm all over the place.
He's a shaker and a mover. He's a shaker and a mover. Darrin, thank you so much. I'll segue off, and you could just snap off of there, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Stay safe, my friend.
Thanks again, buddy.
Thank you, Darrin. Thank you.
God bless you and your audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Darrin. Good night.
All right, cool.
All right, great. That was a great interview with Dr. Darrin Porcher. Thank you so much again, Darrin, for being in here. This guy is a tremendous, tremendous friend. He is a brother in blue, and he's got a ton of really good information. And you know what? I'll tell you this, guys. I'm honored to have him on here because he does offer a lot of good information, because he keeps himself up to date on all things when it comes to law enforcement. So that was Dr. Darrin. We did, like I said, train in the New York City Police Department. He rose through the ranks as a detective. I'll tell you a little bit about Darrin. Hello, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining. Darrin was an undercover narcotics officer. He doesn't talk about that a lot, but he did some really heavy duty street work where he was actually out in the street, risking his life, buying narcotics as an undercover detective. And he doesn't talk about that a lot on his live stream, on his interviews that he does. But this was a very dangerous job that he took on. And, something that I probably would have turned down in my time as a detective. So I tip my cap to him. He really did risk his life many, many times being undercover and going and buying narcotics to take down the really bad guys. So this is a lot of stuff that, you know, we don't get to see. He was PSA 7 up in the Bronx, PSA 7. So let me get one more video I want to play for you guys. I'm actually going to cover, I want to cover the, hold on a second. I want to give you the news conference of the Hepburn County District Attorney talking about the charges. So let's go to that. Let's go to that now. Stand by, guys.
With targeted YouTube video ads,
hold on a second. Let me just blah 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 blah. Okay, that's an ad, and we're gonna get rid of that. All right, here we go. I want you guys to listen to this. This is the district attorney.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman. I'm here to announce that former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin is in custody. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been charged by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office with murder and with manslaughter. Questions?
Yes, what charge of murder?
He has been charged with third-degree murder. We are in the process of continuing to review the evidence. There may be subsequent charges later. I failed to share with you a detailed complaint will be made available to you this afternoon. I didn't want to wait any longer to share the news that he's in custody and has been charged with murder.
What about the other 3 officers involved?
The investigation is ongoing. We felt it appropriate to focus on the most dangerous perpetrator. I must say that this case has moved with extraordinary speed. This conduct, this criminal action, took place on Monday evening, May 25th, Memorial Day. I'm speaking to you at 1 o'clock on Friday, May 29th. That's less than 4 days. That's extraordinary. We have never charged a case in that kind of time frame. And we can only charge a case when we have sufficient admissible evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. As of right now, we have that.
Many people,
Give her a follow-up. Go ahead.
Many people, including the mayor, have said that any other citizen with the video evidence available would have been arrested and held while awaiting charges earlier. Why didn't that happen in this case?
We have charged this case as quickly as sufficient admissible evidence to charge it has been.
I use it, Khalid, but I shut it off by mistake.
Mike, you were saying yesterday that people should be patient or this is going to take time. What's changed since yesterday and this morning, or this afternoon, that now we're seeing murder charges against Chauvin?
Fair question. We have now been able to put together the evidence that we need. Even as late as yesterday afternoon, we didn't have all that we.
All right, guys, I want to just add in here. Okay, Cruz Boston, you brought up a good point. I heard detailed complaint states that the victim was dead, no pulse, sat on his neck for 2 minutes and 43 seconds after no pulse. Darrin said that. I don't know, Cruz Boston, if you were here when Dr. Porcher was here. Darrin mentioned that, and the district attorney right here mentions quickly, hello, Athena, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Great to see you in on the broadcast. Diane, thank you for joining. Black Rose, Nancy Eileen, Lisa 1111, Luke M Tech, thank you so much. He says here in his in the video, he says that charges could be upgraded. Okay, I wouldn't count on that, but for the district attorney to mention that, they may be thinking about upgrade on the charges. Gail B, good to see you from Australia. Put another prawn on the Barbie. Joshua Webb, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Cinnamon Hot, thank you for being in here. All right, so I want you guys to listen. I want you to listen to it. Here we go. I think a few super chats have come through. So super chat is definitely working. It's just maybe glitchy.
Needed. We have now found it, and we felt a responsibility to charge this as soon as possible. Paul?
Yeah, Mike, what was the final piece?
No.
Do you now have some back from MU?
Folks, I'm not going to talk specifically about this piece of evidence or that piece of evidence. You will see, and you all are veterans, I can only talk about what's in the complaint. You will see in the complaint the evidence and put it all together. We needed to have it all. Now, let me just quickly say we have evidence. We have the citizens' cameras, video, the horrible, horrific, terrible thing that we've all seen over and over again. We have the officer's body-worn camera. We have statements from some witnesses. We have a preliminary report from the medical examiner. We have discussions with an expert. All of that has come together, so we felt in our professional judgment it was time to charge, and we have so done.
Based on the other officer's role in the video, what criminal statutes could apply to those officers if it's not murder?
I'm not going to speculate today of the other officers. They are under investigation. I anticipate charges, but I'm not going to get into that. Today.
Okay, so as you heard right there, the reporter asked him, hello, Athena, good to see you. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for subscribing. Hello, Myrna, Mad Skills Gamer. Great to see you. The officer is not going to get bail. There's going to be no bail. I talked about this in my interview with Dr. Darrin. Lisa, he didn't have his hands in his pocket. It looked like it. If you look at the video, he had black gloves on and he was resting it on the outside of his leg. But it doesn't make it any wrong or more right. It makes it horrible. He was resting his hand up against the police cruiser, and the other hand was outside of his pants on his leg. And at one point, he lifted the other leg up, putting all of his weight on his neck in the back. So we will see that booking photos. Hello, Liz. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you to all my channel members and all of the people who come in here. He just said, the district attorney said, arrests are probably forthcoming on the other officers that we all saw the secondary part of the video. The secondary part of the video, Flyer, welcome in. The secondary part of the video that was shot from the other angle across the street shows 2 more officers for a total of 3 with their knees holding him down during the course of that. So no problem, Lisa. I'm here to give you the facts because I really looked into that. I slowed the video down. I looked at it. I enhanced it. His hands were not inside his pockets as everyone's talking about. It was on the outside, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It still makes, it doesn't make it any better. It makes him just as much of a savage murderer with the hands in the pocket or outside of the pocket. So I'm gonna go back and scroll to the chat. I'm gonna scroll back to the chat. And I'll have a quick Q&A with you guys after we roll this, and I'm going to show you the murder statutes for the state of Minnesota.
Today we're talking about former Officer Chauvin, which we believe has met the standards to be charged, and that's what we have done.
I've seen you charge other cases faster.
Whoa.
How closely did you look at the second-degree statutes, either intentional or unintentional, that on the surface seem to fit this, the videotape evidence we've all seen?
We have looked very closely at all statutes. This is what we've charged now. Investigation is ongoing. We have more discussions to do with our experts. This is the same charges that we made when we charged former Minneapolis police officer Mohammed Noor. The exact same third-degree charge and manslaughter charge.
I've seen you charge cases faster. I've seen you charge.
And I don't know much about that case that he just mentioned, but I did look at the back of it. I looked at very quick at that case, and they brought charges against a Minneapolis police officer. He was convicted and sentenced, I believe, to the maximum, 25 years. 25 years in prison. So listen, there's a long way to go. Frog Push Eye on Weather, welcome in. Thank you for joining. There's a long way to go here. We are going to go through a judicial process. There's going to be a trial. There's going to be, cross-examination. It's going to be tough to get a jury of his peers. But we have a long way to go here. So let me let this finish, and then we'll get to the statutes.
This is the fastest you've ever charged a police officer?
This is by far the fastest we've ever charged a police officer, okay? Normally, these cases can take 9 months to a year. We have to charge these cases
9
very
months
carefully,
to a year.
because we have a difficult burden of proof. And let me just say something about that. We entrust our police officers to use certain amounts of force to do their job, to protect us. They commit a criminal act if they use this force unreasonably. We have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office is one of the few prosecutor offices in this country in the last 5 years to successfully prosecute a police officer for murder. And we did that on behalf of Justine Damon. Okay, that's unusual. We know how to do this. We have a very veteran prosecutor group, aided by a very veteran investigator group at the BCA. On top of that, we've had great cooperation from the FBI and from United States Attorney Erica McDonald. And she may have some things to share with you soon, but she does that on her own timetable. I want to say to you that I'm very pleased about that level of cooperation, which frankly, I will say to you.
Okay, so he mentions in here too that the federal prosecutor may have some charges that'll be added on. That was him alluding to that. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but he also says that the federal prosecutor we may hear from her about some federal charges. So let's see how that rolls, and let's see how it all plays out. We all want to see first-degree murder. I talked about it with Darrin when he was here. This third-degree murder is like a second-degree murder charge here in Terry. Thank you for joining, Terry. Good to see you. It's like second-degree murder here in New York. Every state has different statutes. We don't have murder third degree here. It's murder first degree, murder second degree. That's it. So Minnesota has first, second, and third, and they're going at this with the going in, looking for a conviction and looking to get him successfully prosecuted. I guess that they felt that first degree murder, they would not be able to get him successfully prosecuted. So we got to trust the process, and let's hope that the wheels of justice takes charge for the remaining two who were also putting their knee into the back of Mr. Floyd. So again, my prayers and thoughts go out to the Floyd family, to his children, to everybody in that community, all of his friends, the people. He worked as a security guard in nightclubs. He did a lot of different things. I'm not here to pick apart what his life was about. I'm just here to say it's wrong what happened with the police officers. It's also wrong to riot and burn down your own community. So I want people to just take a calm look at this and say, hey, all of this rioting and looting and burning down people's businesses in the midst of a pandemic. We just had 30 days of 600-700 people dying every day here in New York in April and in May, and it's been very difficult with 30,000 deaths in our state alone, and throughout the United States. The numbers are astronomical. So everyone is suffering right now on many different levels. So I hope for peace, and I hope no one else gets hurt, injured, killed, or any of the above. I worry about my fellow good brothers and sisters in law enforcement that are out there. It's just so difficult all around for everybody, because there's so many men and women that are out there that are just victims of circumstance now. Everybody is taking it out on the police. I agree. Soul for Music. Polka Dot Suzanne, thank you so much for being in here. Sandra Beatty, thank you for being in here. Josh, thank you for taking charge with all of the behind the scenes. Definitely thank you so much for your behind the scenes. I'll put up really quick. Joey Brooklyn, great to see you, my brother. Joey Brooklyn's in the house. Everybody follow Joey Brooklyn. Subscribe to his channel for some really good stuff that he does. All right. Minnesota governor apologizes for CNN reporter being arrested. I'm not going to show that, although that's worthy. But take a peek at. Okay, here's the degrees. I'll start out with first degree. Let me pull up. This is just the statutes. Okay, guys, these are the statutes, and I don't know if you could see these well, but I'll make them bigger. Hold on. Let me get this. So this is 2019. The statutes for murder in the first degree. It's 609.185. I don't know if you guys can see that. Sugar plum. I don't think you guys can. See if I can make that bigger. All right, I think that's good. Okay. Wow, that's long. All right, I'm going to highlight it. I'll highlight it. It says Minnesota statutes 609-185, murder in the first degree. A, whoever does any of the following is guilty of murder in the first degree and shall be sentenced to imprisonment for life. Anyone who causes the death of a human being with a premeditation and with intent to effect the death of the person or of another person. Number 2, causes the death of a human being while committing or attempting to commit criminal sexual conduct in the first degree or second degree with force or violence either upon or affecting the person or another. Now, we would all say to ourselves, wait, there was intent here. He intended to murder. There was the premeditation. That's the hard part to prove. In other words, they would have to prove in a court of law that he suited up that day, with the intent to kill George Floyd. They would have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, that he went into work and said, I'm going to kill this man. And it's very hard for them to prove that to a jury. So understand that. Okay. The third statute of the third component is causing the death of a human being with intent to effect the death of a person or another while committing or attempting to commit burglary, aggravated robbery, kidnapping. This all doesn't apply. So that's murder first degree. Let's take a peek at murder. Why is my mouse not? Really? All right. Here's murder second degree. Second degree is subdivision 1, intentional murder, drive-by shooting. That doesn't apply here. And it's a 40-year prison sentence. That's for drive-by shooting, causes the death of a human person, but without premeditation, or causes the death of a human being while committing or attempting a drive-by. So it's murder second degree wouldn't come into play here in this case. Find my mouse. And then I'll read you the third. This is what he was arrested on. So here's the third degree statute, and I know that it's not going to be great, a great view because it's kind of small. I make that. All right, that's better. I think you guys could see that better. So it says murder in the third degree. That's what this officer's charged with, 609.195. And I saw the criminal complaint. I'm not going to read that on here, but it's a lot of mumbo jumbo. Murder in the third degree. A, whoever without intent to effect the death of a person, of any person, causes the death of another by perpetrating an act imminent, dangerous to others, and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life is guilty of murder in the third degree and may be sentenced to imprison for not more than 25 years. He will get, if he's found guilty, which he should be, and I'm praying that he is, he will get 25 years on that charge. And then the secondary charge would probably tack on another 10 years. So it would probably be about 35. And if there's federal charges, there'll be additional charges there. So I'll read it again. Murder in the third degree is whoever without intent to effect the death of any person causes the death of another by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life is guilty of murder in the third degree. Whoever without intent to cause death proximately causes the death of a human being by direct or indirectly, unlawfully selling or giving away, bartering, delivering. This is a component B is not applicable here. 25 years to life in prison. So the ability to prove that he intentionally went to work on Memorial Day evening and said, I'm going to kill this man, is difficult to prove in a court of law. And that's a hard pill for us to swallow, right? That's a hard pill to swallow because we're all like, fuck that. He killed this guy and should be charged with murder first degree. And I'm with you guys, you know. It's not how our criminal justice system works. And it's, you know, that is arguably a whole nother live stream that we could talk about how imperfect it is, you know. It basically means that he acted in a sense of no regard for human life. I mean, it's not showing that he intended to go out that night and kill this man. Killed him during the course of his police job and subduing him, and all of that is spelled out. All of that is spelled out in the complaint. So it's all spelled out in the complaint. So again, all lives matter. I'm always preaching that. It's not just a Black Lives Matter issue here. It's an all lives matter. Everybody matters. You know, now we can have innocent people, not just you know, protesters. We can have innocent people killed behind these disturbing, violent protests that are going on, where people are throwing rocks, shooting off guns. There's a lot of gunfire that you hear in the background. At Glowing Ember, that's the way I read it in the statute here for Minnesota. I read it to be that. I didn't see anything other than that. I'm going to look again for you. Let me look at second degree. I'll pull it up again. And this is right off of the Minnesota legislature. It's murder second degree, intentional murder, drive-by shooting. Whoever does either of the following is guilty of murder in the second degree and may be sentenced to imprison for not more than 40 years. So that's a 40-year prison sentence. Second degree murder is intentional murder, drive-by shootings. Causes the death of a human being with intent to effect the death of that person or another, but without premeditation. Causes the death of a human being while committing or attempting to commit a drive-by shooting in violation of 60966 under the circumstances other than those described in section 609185. Unintentional murder is subdivision 2. Whoever does either of the following is guilty of unintentional murder, and his second degree murder may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than 40 years. You know, I'm not a lawyer. I mean, I'm going to research a little bit more into this because this doesn't sound right. The sub 2 of it says causes the death of a human being without intent to effect the death of any person while intentionally inflicting bodily harm upon a victim when the perpetrator is restrained or under an order of protection, or a victim is a person designated to receive protection under an order of protection. So if you kill someone under an order of protection, but then here it says afflicting or attempting to inflict bodily harm upon a victim when the perpetrator is restrained under an order of protection. Now, so that means if there was an order of protection and the person kills someone, then that's second degree murder. So Minnesota law is a little different than here in New York. It seems to be quite a bit different. So so they charged him with third degree murder and manslaughter as well. And manslaughter, I believe, carries up to a 10-year sentence upon conviction. So 25 and 10, we're looking at 35 years. So guys, I'm live already almost an hour. Let me just say this. My prayers are with Mr. Floyd and his family, and all of people who are affected by this in the state of Minnesota and Minneapolis, the business owners, the people, the everybody across the globe here who is traumatized by this. Kathy from Texas, I wish I had the answer to that question. I don't. Let me take a few minutes before I close for some questions. I don't have the answers to all the questions. Cinnamon Hot Hat says, DutyRon, can you help me understand? I can't get past why EMTs have bulletproof vests and police gear on hips. It appears that no triage administered like the emboldened neck brace. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say there, but send me a message. Send me a direct message or an email, and we could talk about that off of live. But I'm not sure what you're trying to get out there. I'm trying to stay focused on this here. Inner Peas is watching CNN. Sorry to hear that. Hi, how are you doing tonight? Lewis, I'm doing really good. How's everything going over in Texas? Half Rudder, welcome in. There was no signs of choking. I'm not going to get into that tonight, Half Rudder. I want to stay on the focus of what's happening right now, and that's the arrest of this police officer. I don't want to get into, medical examiner's reports. There'll be time to talk about that on another live stream. But yes, I did see that. Do you know of any lawyers from Minnesota? I do not, Key Martin. Sorry about that. Hi, Selena. Good to see you. Seattle Crime Gal, good to see you. First time, this is the first time I've felt shame as a retired cop. Those men are not cops. I felt the same thing, Seattle Crime Gal. I feel a lot of shame, but at the same time, I'm proud of what I did, and I'm proud of what I continue to do as a retired law enforcement professional. EMTs in New York City wear vests. Some of them do, retired Irish detective. Hello, Shannon. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Gayla, great to see you. Police are reportedly trained in the use of force. Of course they are. They are trained in the use of force. Only the amount of the force necessary should be used to take a person. Once the cuffs are on somebody, all bets are off. And that's how we would train. That's how most police are trained throughout the United States. If you put the cuffs on somebody, the game is over. The fight is over. Once the person is apprehended and in custody and you hear the click, click, it's over. We have family in Minnesota, and they're saying it's just crazy there now. Yes, it is. It's very crazy. Kathy from Texas, thank you for the super love. Thank you for the $20 super chat. She says, you are the right kind of police officer. I'm retired, but I am sending out a message of what the good police officers do. And I know
firsthand.
Thank you
for the super love.
So thank you for that super love. Thank you for the $20
You are the
super
right
chat.
kind of police officer.
CNN is getting busted up and set on fire. Unbelievable. Wildlife. Our EMTs wear bulletproof vests in certain situations. It depends on the parts of town. Wildlife, very well said. Cruise Boston says CNN is getting destroyed. DutyRon, rioting, breaking glass at their center at Atlanta. I guess they're going to need the police to come in there and try to, listen, anytime something like this happens, the police are going to be responding to it. They may not be ready for that, though. I know New York City, we're ready for it. We're ready for it here. We have a great police force, the best police department in the United States, and one of the largest police departments. Jan, thank you so much for being in here. Lamar, I appreciate you and all my moderators and my Patreon and all of the channel members. Thank you for that. They just threw a flashbang at the police. Unbelievable. Do you think others will be arrested? Yes, Selena, I do. What about his kids? How old are they? Nancy, I don't know, but I just pray for them. I pray for them. Lonnie Gore says, thank you. Great information. Prayers for Mr. Floyd and his family. Thank you. Some prayer emojis in the chat for the Floyd family. Let's show love and respect for him and for his family. Welcome in, Ray family. Key Martin, having Minnesota attorney on your live for a Q&A would be awesome. I would love that. I would love it. I'll work my best to get one. I know I have a few friends who are attorneys. I'm actually good friends with Martin Tanklift, who was wrongfully accused of murdering his parents. I'd love to get him on here on my live. I'm working on that, and I will talk with him and try to coax him to come on onto one of my live streams. I know I'm behind in the chat. Half Rudder, Barclays Center is well handled by the NYPD. That is correct. DutyRon, I'm scared. Don't be scared. You're going to be okay. It's CNN World Headquarters. They just got tear gassed. Yes. All right. I'm going to skip ahead to the chat. Thank you for those prayer emojis. Atlanta. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Glowing Ember says, wow, even with the chat slowed, it goes fast. Glowing Ember says, you always say NYPD is the best in all of America. Is that a fact? That is a fact. The NYPD is the best police department and the largest in the United States. We have the best training, we have the best equipment, and we have the best men and women in law enforcement. And that is a fact. Look it up. Guys, a lot of love and respect from my house to yours. I got to put a little bit of humor in this because we all are on edge here. We all are on edge. It's a very, very troubling time for us here in the United States, in America, and throughout the country. Soul for Music, thank you for that respect. Mary, great to see you. You're terrific as well. Love and respect. Right back to you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who supports me with comments down below, with watching the replays, and also positively interacting. Diane, Dookie 4000, my neighbor, my friend, my good friend. Hillary McCarthy, good to see you. Thank you so much. NYPD is one of the largest forces in the world. Only number 2 to, I think, Korea, or one of the foreign nations has, I think it's Tokyo, has a bigger police department than NYPD. We have unbelievable and the greatest training in the country. That is correct. That is correct. That's a retired New York City police detective right there. Follow him. Mel M8, thanks for the updates, Ron. Thank you, Mel, from Australia. Love and respect to you. Half Rudder, yes, NYPD is the best, our finest. Joey Brooklyn, thank you. Joey Brooklyn, everyone follow him. I think I'm caught up. You police? You police. American comrades, unite for justice. Thank you. Thank you. Much respect right back to you, Lamar. I think I'm caught up. Sophia Howard, love and respect. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. It's over an hour, so I will speak to you guys on the next live stream. I will have Dr. Darrin back on the live. Again, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can get all things DutyRon. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all one word, DutyRon. Go to DutyRon.com. Get yourself some merch. I have a ton of coffee mugs, t-shirts, hoodies. I know it's the summertime. We don't need hoodies, but go and check out my merch. Support me on my Amazon affiliate. Leave comments down below in the comment section. Share out my videos. Jan Wolf, good to see you. Janice, thank you so much for being in here. And I got a lot of things I want to talk to you guys about. I received some awesome birthday gifts at my P.O. box, some customized birthday stuff. A piece for my mom at her grave made by Janice, and I want to say thank you to her, and some really great custom birthday things. I'm going to take pictures and put them out and post them all over the place. And I'm always getting stuff from Meglo, and a lot of you guys send me cards and letters and emails, and I love you guys. I really, really do. Let's not lose sight of justice and civility. Let's not take advantage of a bad situation here. To the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota, please, please calm down and let's bring justice for his family. I've heard his girlfriend, Mr. Floyd's girlfriend, say that he would not want this. I heard family members say, my boyfriend, my father, my brother would not want to wake up in the morning and see buildings burned down. He would not want to see people rioting and fighting. So let's please, please, I beg of you guys to please take a moment to sit and think about this, and let's get justice for George Floyd. Guys, love and respect from my house to yours. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And guys, most importantly, God bless each and every one of us and the Floyd family. A lot of love and respect from me to you.